Welcome to the Leaders in Payments podcast, where we talk to C-level leaders from across the payments landscape. We'll be discussing the products and services that impact the payment space today, as well as trends and predictions for the future of payments. We will also hear stories from our guests about their journeys to the top.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Leaders in Payments podcast. I'm your host, Greg Myers, and today's special guest is Ismael Wrixen, the CEO of Thrivecart. Ismael, thank you for being here and welcome to the show.
Really appreciate it. Been very excited for this. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we dive into your career and the company itself, can you give us a quick snapshot of your personal background, maybe where you grew up, where you call home today, a few things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I originally from the UK. I spent the first 26, 27 years of my life here. And then I actually came to the US. So I lived in Boston, New York, Miami, New York again. And I very, very recently come back to the UK. It's been a very interesting journey in terms of locations, seen a lot of things. Living in the US was fantastic just to realize the scale of payments and opportunities that exist in the space. So that's a fantastic 10 years or so that I enjoyed out there. But yeah, come back now. In terms of where I originate from, in terms of, career and those kind of things, I'm a recovered investment banker. So I spent a good few years at Citigroup, Morgan Stanley. And yeah, very very early in my career, I kind of realized that the growth in what I was doing was very, very linear. So I wanted to go off and do something else. And we actually ended up, me and my business partner, Ismael, we actually ended up starting a company called FE International, which is a M&A advisory firm for technology companies. Fast forward, 1,500 M&A transactions later, and we started creating private equity funds for people that we had in our network who were either QPs or LPs who kind of wanted exposure to software and SaaS businesses, but didn't necessarily have the time or inclination to run them themselves. So we started up a series of funds, and fast forward a long time, that's kind of how we ended up with Thrivecart. So I'm not the founder of Thrivecart. We acquired the business about 3.5-4 years ago now, a big capital injection into that. And we've just kind of seen the business take off ever since.
Well, let's go ahead and jump in and talk about the company. So tell our audience what Thrivecart does.
Yeah, so Thrivecart is a no-code payment platform for the creator economy, first and foremost. So coaches, creators, online businesses, people selling digital and physical products. And the business very much started out as a way of simplifying how to get out the gates on top of payment platforms like Stripe, PayPal, Authorizer, and those kind of things. And those platforms are fantastic. Some are easier to use than others. Some are built by developers for developers. So Thrivecart really simplified that process at the very kind of beginning. And then later, it's added big affiliate kind of platform and engine. I think we have over 900,000 affiliates being supported on the platform today. It added a learning management system. So we have about 12 million enrolled students learning the various things that the coaches, creators are selling through the platform. But most importantly, in terms of what the platform does, it doesn't just help you facilitate payments. It actually helps facilitate a funnel process. So that's very much kind of starting out with one item you might be selling on the front end. That could be a one-time digital product or physical product, a membership, a subscription, something like that. And then increasing the average order value and the lifetime value of your customer by offering them things like bumps, multiple bumps, one-click upsells, one-click downsells, retention offers, all of these kind of things as a customer goes through the purchasing journey. So yeah, it really is kind of the heart and engine of kind of, payments for the 75,000 or so businesses that use the platform. And now we've managed to scale to a position where we're processing about $2 billion a year in payments. So payments is what we live and breathe, is our bread and butter. There's a whole suite and host of MarTech tools that, sit on top of that as well. But yeah, payments is kind of, very much the engine of what we provide for the creators and coaches on our platform.
I think it would be interesting for the audience to learn more about that industry. That's not one that comes up a lot in payment conversations. When you ask what segments or what verticals do you serve, not many people say the creator economy. So curious if you can give us a little insight into what that vertical is like, what makes it tick. Is it growing? Is it mature? Just curious about that.
Absolutely. I think we represent a little over 1% of the creator economy now globally. So we have a good insight into exactly this. And I would say what we see in our typical kind of very successful creator on our platform is somebody that has usually spent an amount of time in industry. So they might have spent 5, 10, 20 years being an accountant, for example, and they've decided instead of doing accounting on a one-for-one basis, they want to take those skills, put it into a course and then sell it or teach it through our LMS on a one-to-many basis. So it's really kind of people that are experts or will become experts at what they're doing and leveraging that kind of knowledge and skill and kind of expanding out. In terms of the kinds of people on the platform, I mean, there's anything you could imagine essentially within that. I mean, one space that we're seeing a lot of interest at the moment, which is kind of very topical with kind of everything going on now in the start of 2026, it is kind of coaching in the AI space. That's something that we're seeing a lot of. And really, a lot of the opportunities there are coming from organizations that are having to retool and reskill their workforces very, very quickly. And those traditional consulting firms like your Big Four or Big 10 or Big 20, they are obviously doing a lot of that work. But there is definitely a kind of niche element that the creator economy is stepping in and helping to train as well. So yeah, I think in terms of the US alone, I think there's something in the region of 50 plus million people who want access to training, and there's only about 9 million or so that are currently getting it. So the creator economy is, I would say, very kind of flexible, moves very quickly, and can fill some of these gaps that kind of the more traditional approaches to education learning might not be able to move, quite so quickly. Those are some of the spaces that we're seeing kind of a lot of growth in at the moment, but lots of other spaces that kind of, just continue to do well over time. So things like personal finance, touching on, accountants and those kind of things has done very, very well. Business development, kind of personal learning development, health, wellness, fitness. These are all kind of places where a lot of creators on our platform do see a lot of success.
When you think about the payment side of it, what's the biggest challenge that your company is solving for your customers?
Firstly, we simplify that process, down to we handle everything. You just set up a product in, what I want to charge, how many times I want it to be charged, and then what is going to happen to that person through their journey. And we just take care of everything quietly in the background, including all those regular things you would think of like cart abandonment, email dunning, failed payments, all of those things that really as a business owner, you shouldn't have time to worry about that stuff. There's lots of other things as a business owner to be getting on with. And then reporting and those kind of things. But today, what we're looking at, this is actually something that we've just taken to market and we're going to be ramping up over the coming weeks, months, and years. We're really trying to solve the financing side of payments as well. So that the buy now, pay later. And don't get me wrong, we love buy now, pay later. The stats on it are very impressive. You see about a 14% uplift by offering buy now, pay later solutions. And certainly on our platform, all the big ones are there. So Klarna, Affirm, Afterpay, all the ones you would expect. But we've actually devised another way of doing that. Buy now, pay later is great in your local market, in your local currency, and up to a particular price point. But what we're definitely noticing in the creator economy is price points are increasing quite significantly. So it used to be, maybe selling a $50 product, $100 product, but now we see some products that go, up to $10,000 and beyond for maybe, let's say, a mastermind plus consulting and one-on-one coaching and some of these things. That can become quite a lot. So we have things like split pay and limited subscription rebills on our platforms and all the buy now, pay later solutions. But we've actually launched something called ThrivePay Installments. And what that does, I think this is quite unique. What it does is it taps into the pre-authorized credit card availability you have on your card today. In the US, the amount of credit that is out there is about $4.1 trillion. About $3.1 trillion of that is unutilized or inaccessible. And what I mean by that is inaccessible in the sense that you could certainly go out and pay for something on your card, but usually the repayment within 30 days. So if $10,000 for a course or $5,000 for a course is out of reach, a credit card doesn't necessarily solve your problem because within 30 days, Visa or MasterCard will come asking for their money, which is their business model, and that's completely fair. So what we have done is we've devised a way to essentially allow the consumer to pay interest-free over a 3, 6, or 12-month period utilizing a reserve or a hold on the card. So we'll reserve that full balance up front against your credit card limit. And then as you make those payments over 3, 6, or 12 months, that just gets kind of paid down and kind of released back into the card pool and can be used for other things. In early testing, this has proven to be kind of very, very successful. We're seeing average order rates up about 3.3 times. We're seeing the approval rate versus buy now, pay later has shot up to about 85% from 40%. And that's because you're already pre-approved. So Visa and MasterCard and the other payment platforms have done the work to do that. So unlike a buy now, pay later, it's not a new loan charge. There's no credit approval to go through. So the success rate's gone up over 100%. And the time it takes to process a transaction has gone from 55 seconds down to 5 seconds. So in terms of conversions, that's huge as well. That is something that we're very proud of in terms of what we've been able to achieve there. And the other thing is it's truly global. So buy now, pay later is great, but it often will be limited to your home market and your home currency. We're able to offer this in US dollars, Canadian dollars, British pounds, euros, and Australian dollars. So as a merchant, you could be sat within reason anywhere in the world, tapping into this pool of available liquidity, safe in the knowledge that it is then kind of processed by Visa, MasterCard, backed by us. You get 100% of your money up front, just like you would with a buy now, pay later solution. But as those payments are stretched out much, much further into the distance, the level that can be approved typically is much higher. I mean, buy now, pay later will cap out at about $2,000. We can go up to about $65,000. The real limit is the limit on your card, nothing else. So that's something that we've just launched, ThrivePay Installments. We're seeing great success with it. And I really feel like it kind of fits a solution to a good kind of buy now, pay later foundation that's out there, but something that needed improving in terms of accessibility, payment terms and timing, and the ability to kind of truly go global with something like this.
Well, that's exciting. That's not something that I've necessarily heard of. So it's an interesting use case. So congratulations on launching that.
Thank you. And hopefully one day I'll be back to talk to you more about it once we have lots and lots of people on there using it. It is a huge pool. I mean, like I said, in the US, trillions of dollars that are just sat there, approved and underutilized. I really feel like we've solved a problem there and excited to see what comes of it.
So I think some of your competitors, let's talk a little bit about the competitive environment. I think maybe they start with the LMS side, the courses and the education, and they bolt on payments, right? It's an afterthought in some respects. Sounds like you've kind of flipped that a little bit where payments is more the lead and then you can do the other things. Is that a good way to look at it? How would you say you differentiate from your competitors?
Absolutely. I mean, I think in terms of where we are positioned, you could say we're halfway between being a kind of pure fintech, the payment side, and things like ThrivePay Installments definitely kind of moves us more firmly into that category in certain contexts. But the MarTech side of the business, that's where we definitely do compete with and complement, I would say as well, often some of those other kind of LMS players, affiliate platforms and other things out there. But the one thing that kind of, I would say, really differentiates us, other than the, we're payments first, is, and obviously all the complexity that we're there, and flexibility we're able to offer people, is that ultimately you can embed us anywhere you want to go. We are not precious about that. If you decide, look, we like your LMS, but we prefer this LMS over here, good for you. We're very happy that you found a home, and different strokes for different folks. I'm very, very happy with that. You can take your funnel that you have in Thrivecart and you can put that anywhere you want. And the beauty of that is that you can then decide that our LMS might not be for you. It's going to be this one, but that might change in 6 months or a year. And you don't want to be tied into any one particular platform or kind of MarTech platform, because that may change over time. You might decide you want to do something different. There's another platform offering something that's more suited to your business. So you want to be able to kind of keep your core payment funnel where it is and then migrate and move around in different areas as you would. And that's why when some of the largest players, the kind of coaches we have, and these are businesses doing in excess of 50 million a year in some cases, when they started out, they were very small. They started out making, their first dollars there. And then as they kind of went across, they have definitely changed their tech stack, as you would imagine, over time. And with AI, everybody is rethinking, what am I using? Am I just going to vibe code some of the bits myself? I've seen people vibe coding CRMs so that they're kind of very, very bespoke and specific to what your business might need. But you don't need to worry about changing your funnels, your payment processes, what's going to happen to my subscriptions. Oh, actually, the tokenization is actually done by this platform, so I can never leave. We don't do any of those things. We give you flexibility. Ultimately, if you want to leave our platform, you are able to. Your relationship remains with Stripe, with PayPal, with Authorize. We don't get in the way of that. That's just kind of not what we believe in. And same goes for other platforms too. So I don't know of anybody who's more flexible out there than we are, but we are kind of why I said, like, these LMSs, they're our competitors, but we also complement them. We integrate with a lot of them. We have over 50 direct integrations in the market at the moment, plus Zapier that will give you thousands more opportunities. And for us, we're not particular. If you want to use any form, we just want to be in the mix. That's all I would say.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the future now. Where do you see the biggest growth opportunity sort of in your segment of payments?
Definitely Thrive Pay installments, that kind of Thrive Now, Pay Later, if you don't mind the pun there, is going to be AI. That's kind of what we're looking at now and next. Be that kind of AP kind of two payments protocols, with Google, or kind of what Stripe are doing with OpenAI at the moment as well. From what we can tell, most of it is very much focused on e-commerce in the physical e-commerce space to start with. So you've started to see some of that with Etsy and other companies, getting off and getting launched. But agentic payments, I'm not going to sit here saying like it's going to be the future and we should all be going in that direction. I don't see a day where humans stop making purchases themselves, but certainly there will be a part of the market where it's like, agent to agent, and an agent is authorized to make a certain transaction to a certain amount, etc. And maybe that will happen for more run-of-the-mill things. Maybe that will happen for your bills, your invoices, your Verizon bill, or whatever it might happen to be, as well as smaller purchases. So yeah, I'm looking for some sneakers. I like Nikes. I want them to be in this size and this color bracket. Go execute for me. But then I think that other parts of it will be payment platforms, very much like ourselves as well, trying to just break down the friction between a platform like ChatGPT, the research elements, and getting people to be able to transact there and then. So there might not be an agent involved in that particular process, but we are very, very aware that the future will be payments happening within these LLMs, not necessarily outside of them. And you can actually already see a lot of that today, just in the way that advertising is starting to change as well. So, for example, you have ChatGPT has its revamped marketplace, app marketplace, and that's going to give people slightly more exposure than if they don't necessarily have it. Google are doing a very similar thing with their shopping products, and Gemini, they happen to appear in results and those kind of things. And it's just linking up that final piece where you can make the payment there and then, as opposed to being sent somewhere, sent back, or kind of ping pong around a little bit to get to that final point. So I think we're a very, very long way away from significant adoption of agent to agent payments. But I think that humans will be wanting to make payments directly in these LLMs a lot more. And platforms like Thrivecart, we're working to make that happen.
What does success look like for your company over the next, say, 3 to 5 years?
We're on a great growth trajectory at the moment since we kind of took over the business 3.5, 4 years ago. So we're about $2 billion in payments now. Our goal in the next 5 years is to get to 10. But yeah, that's what we kind of focus on. It's GMV, because the gross merchandise value or volume of what the merchants on our platform makes is what we define as success. It's not our merchants aren't making anything, but they're paying us a subscription. That's not a goal for us. Our goal is we are helping you make as much as you possibly can and your business grow and grow. So yeah, for us, it's kind of going from that kind of 2 billion to 10 billion. That's kind of the real focus. Over time, we want to make our product more accessible as well. For the longest time, we've been a one-time priced product. You buy a license and you have access to Thrivecart forever. Our ultimate goal as the business scales beyond 75,000 users, maybe to 150, 200,000 users, is ultimately to be able to offer things like a free tier, just so that we can give even more. Because really, we just want to help people get off the ground, get out of their own way. In a lot of cases, the first step is always the scariest, and just give them tools to then go out and do great things. And the creator economy last year was about 250 billion or so. It's going to hit 600 billion by the end of the decade. So there is a lot of growth in there. We want to make sure that everybody has access to the best tools, and might be a little bit biased, but we believe Thrivecart certainly is that.
How much of this is sort of US? Is it global, or are people selling these courses and coaching on a global basis now, or is it still kind of within specific countries?
It definitely is global. I would say in terms of market, the order roughly broken down goes US, Canada, Germany, UK, other parts of Europe, Australia, in terms of our platform. But yeah, it very much is global. And that's one of the big headaches and pain points that we take away. Like, we calculate and collect taxes for people, like on a global basis. We help keep people compliant. All the e-invoicing regulations that are about to be enforced in Europe in September of this year. These are things that we will just take care of so that someone sat in the US doesn't have to worry about compliance, registration, all of these things. We kind of work and handle that kind of quietly in the background. It's a very, very global space, and I only see that getting more global, especially as a lot more of the growth is coming from AI and AI education and related topics. AI is one of the very unique things where it is globally accessible to essentially most people now in some format. Someone's propensity to want to learn in Japan is just as high as someone's propensity to want to learn in Canada, for example. So really, that's something that we're very proud of in our platform, is that we make the process of selling something globally very, very simple. And we do certain things within the platform. So we're about to launch a new version of our LMS with communities features that are coming, using things like AI in the platform to translate in real time videos, and those kind of things will certainly help with that. We are just about to launch adaptive pricing through the platform as well, really kind of giving that control. But the way we're doing it, I think, is quite interesting. So we certainly have options where like the PSP will simply handle that adaptive nature. One challenge that can come with that is if you're selling something for $99 in the US, that may not translate to 99 euros or 99 pounds or whatever it might be. Sometimes you can lose that kind of psychological pricing edge there as well. So we've devised a way where you can essentially kind of duplicate all your products, set the pricing on an individual basis, and then use smart links to kind of route that all through one domain and then render whatever checkout it is that that person will want to see, which is optimized for their country, their experience, their language, and everything else. Global is quite an important part to us of our platform. And that's one of the beauty of selling digital products or coaching time or those kind of things, is it doesn't have the same barriers that that kind of physical product side can have at times. So very, very important overall for the platform.
Well, if you could go back and give yourself advice at the start of your career, what would that advice be?
Oh, great question. I think just believing in yourself is very important. It's very easy just to look at what everybody else is doing and think, okay, well, they've gone in that direction, we should go in that direction. But ultimately, your gut feeling is made up of millions or billions of subconscious data points of things you may or may not have registered. And oftentimes I think, I certainly did this, and it may apply to other people as well, but getting out of my own way was very important. Just kind of like taking that first step, and then the momentum kind of builds from there. And failure is a good thing. I've certainly had my fair share of it over time, and that's kind of how you really learn the direction in which you want to go. So I think that kind of belief in oneself is very important. Like, you shouldn't take advice from someone who doesn't have to live with the consequences. So ultimately, you should be taking advice from yourself. And I'm surprised every day on our platform of the things that people start. And then you're like, really? Okay. And you're doing now $50,000 a month selling this? Wow. Okay. I never would have come out of, I didn't do an MBA, but I'd never come out of an MBA and be like, that's the thing I'm going to choose to spend. But if you are an expert at something and you really know your domain and you're passionate about it, the money will follow. You just have to focus on, can I be number one in the world at whatever that particular thing I choose to do? And if you are, everything else that you read about on, all the success stories and this and that people strive for, that will come. So yeah, I think just belief is the biggest thing. And coming from the UK, kind of touched on living in America for 10 years. That's one of the best things. I know lots of great things about living in America, but one of the best things was just being surrounded by people who had a similar belief and mentality. Rising tide lifts all boats. And that was very, very refreshing. So if you get yourself in the right frame of mind, the right place with the right people, just belief in what you're doing is one of the most underrated and powerful things, I think.
I think that's some great advice. One final question. So what's the one thing that people who are listening to this show today related to payments, what do you think they should really be thinking about right now?
I would say that in terms of AI and payments, there's going to be a lot of opportunities. There's going to be a lot of change. My personal feeling on it is, if you look back at last year, if we just look at like the LLMs, the major ones and what they were doing, there was a new release essentially every 3 days. That's a lot to keep up with. I think that over the next 6-12 months, we're going to really start getting clarity over what the direction of travel is with regards to AI payments, how they intersect, and the things we were touching on. There's not a huge amount of pressure, I would say, to rush out and try and do something today, because that will all change very, very quickly until we get to that point where we've hit a critical mass and we kind of know the direction that things are going in. But yeah, I think it's going to be a big chunk of the future of payments. I think we're still 6 to 12 months away from figuring that out. So I don't think people need to be in a mode of that fear of missing out. Should I be doing something? Should I be this? Should I be that? The PSPs and companies like Thrivecart are working very, very hard to kind of bring products to market that make sense and that are tried and tested and will actually make a difference to payments kind of going forward. So I think kind of second half of this year, we're going to start seeing some really exciting things. But I'm like everybody else. I sit there being like, can I do more now? I heard this on a podcast or this or that. And the reality is like, it's still very early days. So yeah, 6, 12 months, we're going to be in a really, really good place. And in the meantime, educate yourself as much as possible around the topics and conversations. Because when it does happen and we do start to go mainstream with some of these stuff, it will be important to understand the journey that led to that point. But very, very exciting overall. And I can't wait to start releasing AI payment products, which the team are working very hard on at the moment.
Give us one key takeaway that you would want the audience to remember about Thrivecart. Kind of give us that elevator pitch, and we'll end with that.
Firstly, I appreciate being on and you giving me the opportunity to speak about Thrivecart so extensively. I mean, I'm super proud of that Thrive Pay installment. Like I said, Thrive Now, Pay Later. But I think that the thing that I think is the most unique and valuable to us is we are a part of a creator journey for life. Wherever you want to go, whatever you want to do, however you want to set yourselves up, we are here to be supportive, quietly in the background, day in, day out, doing the things that we do on the payment side so that our customers don't have to worry about it and have full flexibility. And that's important because the world is changing so quickly that you don't want to be tied to any one particular thing in a way that could hold a business back if a really good opportunity or a new platform comes up. And you look at platforms like Lovable, all these vibe coding platforms, all of the tools that we're going to use in 5 years will be totally different from most of the tools we're using today. That is kind of where Thrivecart comes in. It's like you can safe and securely know that you're dealing with a platform that does scale billions a year in transactions, and you can use as much or as little of it as you want, but you don't need to keep changing things over time as you grow. We're here to help you with your first dollar, your millionth dollar, your 100th millionth dollar. That's kind of the takeaway, is kind of flexibility.
Well, Ismael, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate your time. I know it's very valuable. So again, thank you so much for doing this today.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And to all you listeners out there, I thank you for your time as well. And until the next story.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Leaders in Payments podcast. Make sure you visit our website at leadersinpayments.com, where you can subscribe to the show and where you'll find our show notes. If you enjoyed listening, please share on your social channels as well.